Hello and welcome to the Adventure Toolkit example reel number 17. My name is Glenn Storm and I'm from Hot Iron Productions. Today we're going to continue looking at the changes from version 1.0 to version 1.1, starting with the MovieTrigger. In the cinematic folder we have a new tool called the MovieTrigger that is meant to simply play, pause, stop, or replay movie textures. Let's take a look. This quad in my scene has a material on it. It is a movie texture. I've set it to be an unlit movie texture. And the MovieTrigger tool is pointed to it. Let's take a look at the properties. The first property is movie screen, and this is a reference to that quad, the object that has the movie texture on it. The next is movie action, and this is where you can set it to play, pause, stop, or replay the movie. Next is movie speaker, and this is an optional reference to an object where you would like the audio playback to come from. This will spawn an audio source on the movie screen object by default, but you can set it to be another object. So you can put it on a microphone or any other object you like. The last property is reset on trigger, and if this is true, this tool will turn itself off once it has done its thing and get ready to do it again, so you can use it over and over. Let's see how this works. I'm going to hit play, and then I'm going to turn on the movie. It's set to play right now. So this will play. And I could set this to reset on trigger and play it again. And I can pause it. And I could stop the movie altogether, which will automatically rewind it. And then I can replay, which is to say stop and play it from the beginning again. This replaces the standard procedure, which is to simply recode or code this yourself. And you no longer need to do that thanks to the MovieTrigger. Let's move on now to the event category of tools. We have several new tools in version 1.1, starting with the EconomyManager. The EconomyManager manages values that you think are important in your game. Why am I being so general about that? Because you can use this tool to mean a bunch of different things. It could be that you want to manage health, or score, or experience points. Maybe you want to manage the number of enemies that the player has killed, and that when they reach a certain threshold they will win the level. All of these are economies. They are values you want to track, and they do special things when the value reaches a certain point. The EconomyManager does this for you in a generic fashion so that you can manage it yourself. You can define what it means for yourself. Therefore, this is a powerful tool, and this replaces the very standard procedure of having to code your own health system, or scores, or leveling up, or any number of different things where you need to track things of value. So, let's go through these properties. First is economy type, and this is the type that your value is going to take. It could be a number, a simple integer number. It could also be a float number, in other words, a decimal point number. It could also be a percentage, which is a decimal, but it also includes the idea that it is always going to be a decimal point to two places. There is also a type that can be time, so you can have a number of seconds. You can have a number of minutes and seconds. And if you are doing a racing game or anything that's going to be incredibly time sensitive, you can have minutes and seconds and hundredths of a second. So this economy can represent a number, like how much health you have. You have 100 health, you have 50 health, you have 2 health left. Oh no. This can also be time. It's where you can count down from 5 minutes, and at the end of it things are going to go boom. Or it can be a percentage that means you have 60% of your armor left, etc., etc. Okay, so that's the economy type. Next is the economy minimum. This is the minimum value, the minimum value this economy will take. So in this case, I want it to represent health, so I've set it to be an integer, and the minimum health you could have is 0, at which point I'd like people to die. So the next is the economy maximum. This is the maximum value this economy will take, and I'm setting it to 100. Next is economy start. This is the starting value of the economy, and I'd like my characters to start out with 100 health before I hurt them. Next is economy round 2. So if you have a float number type of economy and you'd like to round that number, you can, or a percentage type as a matter of fact, you can round it to a certain decimal place. Next is a series of economy marks. This is where the power of this tool comes into play, because when my health in this example reaches 0, I want it to do something. So I'm going to set a mark that's going to represent death. So let's look at these economy marks. The first property in it is mark label, so I can actually label it something other than element 0. In this case, I've labeled it death, and you can see it here clearly, death. The next is mark value. This is the value that I'm looking for, or rather the tool is looking for. If this economy reaches 0, then this economy mark is going to trigger. If it crosses this threshold at any point, it will trigger this. Next is on mark trigger. So when that condition is true and it has reached 0 or past 0, this object will turn on. In this case, I've created a separate object called death event that will do fun things. On mark activate is the next property, and this on mark action, and this sets what to do when that value is reached. By default, it is activate, because that's what I'm doing here, but you can also deactivate objects or toggle them activated and deactivated. So you can set that here. So this economy mark is pretty important. You can have a number of them. So for example, my health could be down below 10, and that triggers something like a flashing HUD to let people know that they are hurting. I could have a series of them along the range of health from 100 to 0, and I could trigger, say, the display of their face getting more and more mangled, just like the face meter in the classic game Doom. So those are economy marks. Next is economy display. And this is a public property that just displays what will be shown on screen, or what would be shown on screen. It's basically feeding back to you what the current value is, so you can track what's going on with your economy manager and make sure it's doing what it's supposed to. Economy display, or display economy I should say, is the next property. Display economy, if checked, will actually display this economy on screen, and it will work like other HUD elements. So if this is true, then the next properties actually mean something. First is display top. This is a percentage of screen space at which to position the display. Display left is next, and this is a percentage of screen space in horizontal screen space, and this will again position the display. So I've got it set to the top left corner by saying 10%, 10%, or 0.1, 0.1. Next is display font size, and this is the size of the economy to display. The font size is at 30, and at the time of this recording, we currently have version 1.1, but version 1.2 has already been submitted, and the only change here is that this will appropriately scale the font size depending on the size of your screen. So that's coming. If you're watching this video, quite possibly that's already available. Next is display color. This is the color of the text to display. So while you're showing the number or the percentage or the time display on screen, you can set the color. Next is display depth, and like other HUD elements, you can change the depth of this display so that elements can be in front or behind others. So you could have a HUD element that is the frame of the health score, for example, and then this can display on top of it by having the depth be a lower number. Okay. So again, I have an EconomyManager. This does not work alone. We have an EconomyTrigger to determine what happens with that value. I can make it go up or down. And in fact, if I were to be managing time, EconomyTriggers actually start the clock or stop it, depending on what the value is. If I have, for example, time set here and I trigger it to a number like -1, it will begin to count down exactly 1 second, exactly on the second. Or I can set it to -2 and it will count down twice as fast. If I set it to 0, it will simply stop the clock. Okay, so EconomyTrigger is next, and we'll look at that. This is going to reference the EconomyManager and set the amount to change the value. In this case, I'm looking at the EconomyManager we were just looking at. And so let's get through these properties quickly, and then we'll actually do something. First, EconomyManager. This is a reference to the EconomyManager that this trigger will reference. Next is trigger amount. This is the amount to change the value that the EconomyManager is tracking. Next is relay on activate, and if this is true, this trigger is waiting to be activated in order to change the amount on the EconomyManager. If false, this is actually assuming that there will be a collider set to is trigger, and it's waiting for a collision event to activate the to change the economy value. Next is relay delay, and if relay on activate is true, this is the number of seconds from the time of activating this trigger until the value will actually change. Next is valid collider, and if relay on activate is false and you do have a collider but you don't want any object to collide with this and cause the economy to trigger, say you would like only the bullets to affect this player's health, then you have a reference here to objects which will count in changing the economy value. Next is use fix update. If this is true, this will work on a different schedule, the schedule of physics objects, rigid body and such, and character controllers. Typically, you could leave this false and it will simply update every frame, and that will work just fine. Next is reset on trigger. If this is true, this object will turn itself off and be ready to be reactivated so you could use it over and over again. I've set it to true here. And last is configure for 2D. Like many other tools in this version of the tool set, we have added the ability to simply configure this for 2D physics. So now it works in 2D projects just as simply as it does with 3D. Just check this box and it will look for 2D colliders. Okay, so we've got two economy triggers here, one to hurt and one to heal. Let's hit play. And with our EconomyManager on, we are actually displaying the value here, 100 health. That's what we had it set to start. And now we can begin to hurt our character. So we're going to subtract 10 every time he gets hurt. We can also heal, and that will simply raise it by 25. So the EconomyManager is simply tracking how much this value is changed. If this does get to that mark, and I think the mark was 0, it is set to trigger a death. And that again is this death event object, and just for fun I went ahead and did the classic "you have died." So our death event just has a couple of overlay faders set to do something fun. Clearly you can do whatever you want with it. Okay, that's all the time we have in this video. We will follow it up with more event tools. Please stay tuned for the next one.